My name is Tucker Johnson, and I am your host today as we experience Nimdzi Live, where we talk about the latest and greatest in translation, localization, internationalization, culturalization, and all that fun stuff global companies need to delight their international customers, or at least not to piss them off too much. On this program, we invite guests who like to have fun and have some value to add for our audience of globalization professionals. I'm always eager to provide a platform to those with a good story or a good data set. So let us know if there are any topics you'd like covered or guests that we should reach out to for future episodes. If you haven't already done so, then I would encourage you to subscribe to Nimdzi Insights either on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you are joining us from today. If you subscribe, then you will be one of the first people to be notified when we have new live streams or when Nimdzi Insights publishes new research over on nimdzi.com. Today, before we get into it too much, I wanted to let you guys know about some exciting events that we have coming up here at Nimdzi Insights. We have put together a whole event series for you guys, for the industry out there, and there's definitely more to come. But so far, if you missed it, then we did our annual State of the Language Services Industry readout, I would say, on Tuesday. That's highlighting, of course, the Nimdzi 100, which will be published, I think, over the weekend. So when you come into the office on Monday, then you can go over to nimdzi.com and check out the Nimdzi 100, the full market report. We also have some events coming up, choosing the right investment in the language services industry, where we're going to talk to Jordan Kay from Mobius Investment. Yesterday, we talked to Tamara Tirzirak from Frontier Development, Vinny Brito from Invent, Julia Greco from Shopify, and Paul Gerton from Royal Philips. And the topic of that was the Lessons in Localization series that we have over at Nimdzi Insights. I'm not going to read all of these for you guys, but go check it out. And you can find those on Nimdzi's LinkedIn page. Go to our LinkedIn page and go to that event tab, and you will see all of the events that we have coming up, and you can sign up for them, register for them so that you'll be notified when we go live, and you can watch the recording afterwards. This is a live event. For those of you that haven't joined us previously on live events, you know how it works. We'll bring up the chat over here. So if you have any questions in chat, make sure that you're putting those over there. We like to make this an interactive process. Chat is just as much of a guest on the show as our actual guest, whom I will be introducing right now. So let's get into today's topic. In recent years, the way that we work has been changing, which was only accelerated in 2022, or 2020, I should say, when we were faced with the global pandemic, forcing many traditional offices to convert quickly to remote work. Since then, companies have been looking for creative ways to continue to evolve the traditional work model that benefits not just their business, but their employees as well. Today, we are talking with an LSP, a CEO of an LSP, about an interesting experiment they have been running. Months ago, they asked themselves, what would happen if we moved to a 4-day work week? If this is an idea that you have had for your office, then this conversation will be particularly interesting because we can all benefit from hearing how it has been going for them. So without further ado, I will introduce today's guest. Many of you know him, many of you love him, Diego Cresceri. Diego is the CEO and founder of CreativeWords, a language services provider based in Genova, over in Italy. In April 2021, he co-founded a startup as well called Creative AI for the provision of data and artificial intelligence. He's a graduate in translation and interpreting at the University of Genoa. Before founding CreativeWords, he was a translator, project manager, and chief operations officer in a local translation agency. He holds workshops and seminars on innovation, artificial intelligence, and machine translation at universities. And that's about all of the stuff. That's not all of the stuff. That's all of the good stuff I have to say about Diego. Diego, welcome to the show. What did I leave out?
Thank you, Tucker. Happy to be here. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. I'm excited.
Welcome. And like I said, guys, many of you over in chat know Diego, so feel free to put questions for him over there, and we'll get to those. But
yes, please.
To kick us off here, we are talking today about the 4-day work week. Now, this is, as I mentioned in my introduction, this is something that I had actually spoken with you months and months ago, and I haven't talked to you. I haven't had a chance to catch up with you since then. So I myself am finding out how has it been going over the last months? But I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing. We're talking about the 4-day work week, so it's obviously clear what it is. But when did this idea get started? Why did this idea get started? Take it away.
So first time I heard about that was from one of my colleagues, and we were having an innovation challenge in our company, and we used the platform to propose ideas, basically innovative ideas. And to me, I was expecting, technology things like integrations, anything related to technology. One of them actually proposed it for the short working week, and I did ignore it at first, so I didn't really take care of that. After some months, I heard about a webinar going on, and one I missed. And they were basically asking themselves, is it a short working week going to work in the language industry? So I was not able to attend that webinar, but when I heard about it, I decided, let's give it a go. And I was actually having a lunch break, and I was working in Genoa. And I thought, okay, now I go back to the office and tell my colleagues, let's do it. And when I was going back to the office, I met Daniela. She was also working during lunch break. And Daniela, she's here somewhere. And I proposed that to Daniela. And usually Daniela is someone who starts with a no.
Yeah,
Sorry,
she's
Daniela.
like me.
Yeah. And that
Daniela
time,
was on the show a few episodes
yeah,
back, and we were joking around that her and I are the people that need to say no to people like you and Renato.
we need you.
So,
We need you
yeah,
guys. Absolutely. But she said yes. And to me, that was the greatest thing that made me think, okay, let's do it. So I went back to the office. It was probably end of August, and I told my team, guys, I want to do that. So let's do that. And it took us 1.5 months to kickstart it, because there were so many things we had to do in terms of bureaucracy to make it work. Agreements with the employees and everything, labor laws, whatever. It's pretty new in Italy, so nobody was aware of
sure.
this. And
And
then we
Italy's not the
started it
best environment to be, shall we
from
say,
many different points of view.
creative with labor laws, right?
It's
So
quite complicated, I
it's
guess. It's the
complicated, I
same
should
as
say.
other
Yeah,
European countries. It's not as easy as it should be. So I had to talk with Chamber of Commerce, with my consultants, in order to find the best way to make it work. And we started on October 17th. So we had 1.5 months to kick this off. And so we are now almost 5 months into this.
Oh wow,
Yeah. So this is how it worked.
wow.
My idea originally was to have a 6-month trial period. I was advised to make it longer, because in 6 months you're not really able to understand, if it's working or not. So we have a trial period, longer one, until the end of this year. So we're still in trial
So you're
period.
still in the trial period. Well, it must be going good if you haven't canceled it yet. I have so many questions. I don't even know where to start. Help me out, chat, if you got questions. But my first one is what does that look like? Like we say 4-day work week. Does you just work Monday through Thursday and say, "Oh, it's Friday. Go home and eat some fish." Or like what does it look like?
It's an all-in basis. So as a standard, we take 1 day each week, and this is first week you take Monday, and so on. Of course, we take shifts, and so let's say first week you take Monday, then Tuesday, then Wednesday, and then between the 5th and the 6th week you get the Friday and the Monday, so you get to have a longer weekend as well, which is a nice addition to this. This is how it should work standard-wise. Then, of course, it's not as easy as it seems. We need to make some changes sometimes, but this is how we are organized, mostly, I would say.
So people, you're basically taking shifts,
Yeah,
essentially,
taking
because I mean that's my number one thing. We're in the language services industry, so service is a big part of how you vendors like you are adding value to your clients, and you can't just take off 1 day a week. How does that work with account coverage? Let's say,
Yeah, that's a good one. Of course, project manager. Well, we are there 5 days a week for our customers, of course. So nothing has changed for us, for them. So project managers was the most impacted teams, I would say. So
Sure.
we need to find some ways to make it work. I would like to mention that it hasn't started with the short working week, but we had already many integrations and automations in place in order to be quicker with project management. But then, of course, we needed to change some little pieces of our processes. So, for instance, the first big change that we did was to have a single inbox for all our projects,
Okay.
something we hadn't implemented before. So, every project manager would have their own customers, and every customer would have their own project manager. This is the same now with our premium customers, but most of them do have a single alias they write to, and the first available project manager will pick up their request. And this is working, I would say, great. I think we even managed to be quicker than before with replying to requests.
Sure, because it's more coverage, right?
Yeah,
So
there's more coverage,
I
absolutely.
I'm personally a big fan of aliases. I know a lot of people hate aliases.
Oh, we did 8 aliases.
You did
This is
hate
something I was.
alias, yeah. Most people do, but I'm a big fan of it. It's how I was kind of brought up in this industry, and I've learned I'd rather be on an alias and ignore emails and be able to have them, just so I can jump in and cover for people. So I'm sure that was a shock getting people used to working on aliases.
Yeah,
Big,
I mean, we all fear that the customers will not like it, but again, the service has improved. Actually, it's not
nice.
getting worse.
Well, and there's also kind of an aspect of enforced cross training on accounts there.
Oh,
That's a big
absolutely.
weakness that a lot of us have when we're on the vendor side or managing a project is, if I'm a project manager for a high profile client, it's hard for me to take a vacation because nobody else knows how to do the job. But if you're forcing me, and I don't know if you're forcing it, but if you're forcing me to take a 4 day work week, then I'm going to have to train somebody else on how to do that job. So,
Well, we had that, of course. I mean, every customer had a backup project manager, of course, already, but now they have a team behind their projects rather than just two people. Because, of course, we were taking all of this before as well. So we had a backup already, but now it's more. We split the team into two teams and assigned a customer. So every team is made up of 5 or 4 people.
okay.
So there's more coverage. Absolutely.
Marta in chat had the same question that I was just about to ask, but I'll give her the credit for this. When you're moving to 4 day work week, and Danielle is stealing your thunder, she's already answering it, looks like. But when you move into a 4 day work week, are you going to 4 10s, as we say in the US, like 4 10 hour days instead of 4 5 8 hour days? Or is it the same amount of time? What does that look like?
It's well, full-time employees, they work 32 hours, so
Okay.
it's 8 hours per 4 days.
God, I got to get out of the US. I got to move over to Europe.
Well, after, I believe, after 6 or 7 hours in the office, you're just not able to produce or to be
I
productive. So
I can
it
agree.
doesn't make sense.
I can agree with that. And yeah, I saw Stefan down. Stefan. I always call him Stefan. Stefan down in the comments too. He said that you spoke at his local lunch recently, and he had gotten a bunch of feedback that was the same. It's like from people saying, "I'm moving to Italy. Sign me up."
But food is great.
The food is great. I can vouch for that as well. So 32
Yeah,
hour.
so basically the model is 80, 180. So 80% of the time, 100% of the salary, because I think that will be another question that I would get soon. And yeah, 100% of the productivity.
Well,
That's the idea.
well, since you brought it up, what is the effect on salary on this? Were there changes in
No
that?
effect whatsoever. I mean, it's not a wage reduction.
Okay.
It's a reduction of the time you spend
Well,
in
that's
the
nice.
office. Basically.
Yeah, because my first, like, being the skeptic that I am, my first question, like cynical question, would be, okay, so I'm getting to work 4 days a week, but am I having to work like extra hard on those days or extra long hours, something like that? You mentioned earlier, like when you were brainstorming about this, you came in and you talked with Daniela, who was working during her lunch hour, which is blasphemy in Italy.
She was walking, not working.
Oh, walking. Oh, I heard working.
Walking. She
And
was
I'm like,
walking.
well, what good is
Well,
a 4 hour, 4 day work week if I have to work over my lunch hour? Okay, so thanks for clarifying that.
no, we were walking. I mean, it happens that we work. Daniela can testify this,
Oh, sure.
but doesn't happen too often. Hopefully.
So, what would you say the effects on productivity? We talked about, I mean, you mentioned like service, the level of service has actually gone up. Like, what can you say about productivity? Are people able to focus better during those 4 days?
Well, I would say yes. Again, we have a strong technological infrastructure, so many of our manual processes are automated. And this was the start. So it was as a consequence as well as the cause of this short working week. Productivity in terms of projects managed has not decreased at all. Um,
But it hasn't
Numbers at
decreased
the end of
either,
the month are quite good. Hasn't increased either, you said.
or it hasn't decreased either, right? Which
No,
means
it
if,
hasn't decreased. It's basically the same as it was before. Of course, we are keeping implementing new things in order to be even quicker. What we did also in terms of communication, internal communication, is we had to implement some day-to-day communication system in order, you take a project on the Monday, then you are off on the Tuesday, and on the Tuesday someone needs to deliver, and you need to know how to deliver, and so on. So this is done with Monday.com at the moment.
okay.
So that's the system we are using, and that's for day-to-day communication. But we already had, very well documented processes for every customer. So this was there already.
And we have another question here in chat from Boryana. It looks like, have you changed the working hours and remote slash hybrid policy? Does PTO? It's okay. Bunch of questions here. So the first of all, how does this overlap with, or does it, any changes into remote slash hybrid policy that you may have had?
Well, we've been working hybrid already since 2020,
Oh, okay.
and we have remote employees. They work full time from home.
Okay.
So there's been no change, I would say.
Nice. So when you're saying 4 hour or 4 day work week, that doesn't necessarily mean they're coming to the office 4 days. That means
Oh
remote
no,
employees
absolutely.
are working remote. And
Yep,
okay.
they're
Uh,
working 4 days.
all right. And so second part of the question, how do you mess up or how do you account for PTO or paid time off and holidays with this? Um, what
In what
happens?
term?
What's it? So I can imagine here, like if I'm working Mondays through Thursdays, for example, and Friday is a holiday, so I would get that off anyways. Like, do people get like, well, can I take an extra day
So
off because the holiday falls on my day off? How does that work?
the rule is that we plan the holidays, we plan the days off, and you get the day off if you work at least 3 days if you work three
Okay.
days.
Okay.
Okay, so if there's a couple of days of holidays, of bank holidays, nobody takes the day off. Otherwise, I mean, the office will be always empty and it
Right.
doesn't work. Uh,
You
and so,
gotta have some rules.
yeah, yeah. So that's one of the rules. And the other rule is that when we have, company global meetings, so everybody from all over Italy comes to the office, usually in that week.
Okay.
We don't take days off. And this happens 3 times or 4 times every year. So it's not a big deal.
So you do have those days when everybody's in the office at the same time. Like you make plans 3 or 4 times a year to make sure that the whole team's together. Because that would be one of my concerns too, is losing that team cohesion because not everybody is working together. And
Yeah. Well, this has to do with remote work as well, I guess.
fair, yeah,
For project managers,
yeah,
for instance, there's one day every month that everybody's in the office. Well,
okay,
is working at the office, so
sure,
everybody
sure,
is working at his or her desk, so that they can have their global team meetings. And with linguists, it's the same
okay.
because it's really important to be able to
Yeah,
keep
I
feeling.
I am definitely a big supporter of that, like getting the team together, even bringing remote employees in. That's something that we've adopted here at Nimdzi Insights. Is we try, budget permitting, to have an all hands meeting like once a year or so, where we get people because we're all remote here at Nimdzi. We're all over the place, so we try to really hard to get everybody together at least once a year, so that we can like shake hands and actually meet the
Absolutely,
people that
that's
we're
pretty
working
important.
with, eat some good food as well. Um, as far as managing this, I know you guys are big on tracking, you use OKR methodology, I believe, over there, CreativeWords. How has this affected? Have you come up with any specialized KPIs, goals, OKRs, tracking, reporting? Have you had to change the way that you approach that, or have you developed anything new?
And not anything big, I would say. So we keep track of the revenue of any missed projects, any missed deadline. That didn't happen so far. So we don't keep track of that. The numbers I look at is the numbers at the end of the month. I mean, I don't really check.
Right.
Well, Daniela does that
If
probably
it's
more than I do, but
if the clients are
uh,
happy and you're making money and the quality is good, then who cares,
and
right?
people are happy as well. I mean, that's the most important goal of this initiative, right? Keeping people happy and less stressed,
Well,
hopefully. So
and
if
that
it's
leads
not
me.
measurable, maybe. Well, we measured that actually because we had a survey last month about that, about stress level between the employees.
Oh, that's cool.
It was going down compared to the initial days of this initiative. So that was good. So that's something we measured. Other than that, we really measure the revenue and the profitability of customers. But this is what we were doing before. So nothing
Yeah,
has changed.
and Boris, is that Boris? Yeah, Boris in the comments here mentions exactly he mirroring my thoughts here. If everything is the same as before, except 4 work days instead of 5, it's basically the equivalent of giving everybody 25% or a 20% pay increase, right? Because they're working less hours and making the same money, and they're happy. They're getting the same amount of work done. I'm waiting for the
Basically,
catch. I'm
yes.
trying to find a catch. Like, okay, so what blew up? Like, what's burning down around you? Because conventional wisdom says that you can't just let people work 20% less than what they were working before and still get the same results. That's the conventional wisdom, but it sounds to me like a lot of this is just kind
I mean,
of.
if you have one more day to relax and do your own stuff and take care of your side initiatives, community work, whatever, I think that on those 4 days that you are in the office or at your desk, you just work more. It's just when you the day before going to the holiday, aren't you quicker? You want to close everything and deliver everything you have on your desk. I mean, it's just like the same. They do work smarter, probably do work quicker. On those 4 days, they have one more day to relax, and that's it. I mean, it's unconventional maybe, but I think it's also pretty straightforward to
Well,
understand.
and that makes a lot of sense because I can't tell you I how many Thursdays I've left a project for tomorrow because I know that well, shoot, I'll be here tomorrow, so I'll just do that tomorrow first thing in the morning. But if I'm closing down on a Friday and I want to get out of there, then I'm more motivated to actually get everything done. So the psychology
Yeah,
behind that makes a lot of
yeah,
sense, actually.
yeah. In terms of extra hours, it happened maybe the first month that we had some more, but now I think we have less than 10 extra hours sold to in the whole team every month, which is, I mean, nothing, right?
Right.
10 extra hours means really nothing. I don't ask for extra hours. I mean, to me, extra hours is a problem, not something I want to. It's not something that I want my employees to do.
Yep.
When there are many extra hours, it's a problem. I don't really celebrate that, let's say. So, but it's not happening, so that's good.
And we have Arancha. I see your comment here, and this is kind of a question that I wanted to ask. What if, or it's related to a question I wanted to ask. What if I'm working for you and you say, good news, everybody, we have a 4-day work week. And I say, you know what? I'd actually prefer to work 5. work. I hate change. I hate progress. I want to keep working 5, and screw this for 4-day work week idea that you have, Diego. Is there an option for people to work 5? Like, you
What
know,
do you mean? Like working 5 days,
that
less
tells
hours?
that tells me that it hasn't come up. So, like, if I wanted to work 5 days and make more money, is that an option?
Okay, that's the question. Well, nobody asked me for that.
Fair enough.
I think,
Because
I mean,
that could be
the
dangerous
industry work.
too. Because offering more money's weird. We get weird about money, right? So I could see a situation where people are saying, "Well, I want to work 5 days and make more money," and then after 2 months of that, they're like, "Well, everybody else is working 4 days." We tend to
And they
forget.
want the same money.
Exactly.
I the same with extra hours. To me, the day off would be an extra day, and I wouldn't incentivize that.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, they need that extra day off. That's my thought. They need it.
And for that extra day off, man, it's sounding so tempting. For that extra day off, based upon the feedback that you've gotten from your team and just your observations, how are people using that time? Are
That's the best question.
they learning
Uh,
guitar? Are they taking more trips?
I, this is something I would love to answer to. I can answer for myself.
Okay.
I started a skydiving the training course, so I'm doing
A
skydiving on.
skydiving training
Yeah,
course.
yeah. So, but and you know why? Because I have a family. I have 2 kids.
Yep.
Usually, I do skydiving on Saturday. But if I'm home on, let's say, on the Thursday, I feel less, guilty because
Yeah.
I'm off doing my own stuff on
Because
the
it's an
Saturday.
extra day and you're not
Yeah, but I
stealing that
started
time from your
someone
family.
started some volunteering, some different things. I haven't gone into that detail. I didn't want to do that kind of storytelling,
Yeah.
and I really don't want to ask what they're doing in their free time.
Yeah, that's fair. Their free time is their free time. I was just wondering
Yeah,
if you knew of anything. And Anna, I see your comment here about the stress level. I think we already talked about this a little bit. The stress level has gone down measurably because you took these 2 surveys, and the
yeah,
stress
as an average.
on average, sure,
Yes, if Daniela was on stage now, she'd probably reply. That's not always like that for her and
13.6,
me,
sure, yeah,
but on average, yes.
on average. So that's good. And Eddie in the comments asks, have you noticed this working better for particular functions, creative roles versus more technical ones such as software development? So everybody's moving to remote. Are there some teams that it works better for than others?
No, I mean we are an LSP, so we don't have a development department. We don't have we have basically 2 big teams: the linguistic team and the management team. The linguistic team has always been doing quality rather than actual translation. So basically, there's been no change in the number of outsourced words. So they're working on creating documentation, having kickoff calls. So it's just a matter of being more organized, I guess. There are individual, let's say, departments with just one person, like, I don't know, marketing or vendor management, more or less one person. So it's just a matter of being self-organized, but it works pretty good with every team.
Yeah. I can imagine the client facing roles like the project management, client facing project managers, those are the ones that are but you have we talked about that. You have the aliases, you have the sharing of the
Yeah,
workload and all of
again,
that.
for some customers, I mean, they expect us to be there and having the monthly calls, but it's just a matter of talking with them, explaining what we're doing. Usually they're quite jealous that we're doing this, and they adapt their schedule as well to the day off of the particular project manager.
Very cool. Yeah, because I know just based upon all the conversations I have with client side folks, like one of the biggest pain points, I would say, points of contention, areas of distraction, whatever, is when they're constantly having to work with different PMs from their vendor. Like clients want one PM so that they can build that relationship and trust them And you're telling me that really hasn't been a challenge. The clients have been either willing to work around the schedules or they're liking the team model.
Yeah, as of now, it's not been a big challenge. We maybe had some questions around it, but other than that, I mean, the level of service has not changed. I mean, there are some things. It's not all going
Aha.
like smoothly
Now
100%.
now we're getting into it.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
I've been trying to find what's wrong with this. It sounds too good to be true.
so for some customers, I had the feeling we had no feedback at all about this, but I had the feeling that we needed to develop more of an account management role in the company. So
Okay.
this is something we're working on because yeah, you lose part of the relation.
Sure.
So we are building this role which we didn't have before. So it's work in progress. I guess this is something we could have done before as well. And again, the other thing is that it's not working perfectly every week for everyone. Sometimes I'm not taking the day off because you just can't. I mean, I have two companies to manage, many things to do, doing the live with you. I
Sure,
mean,
sure.
many things.
Sorry.
So it's not always for, especially I would say for me and Daniela and maybe a couple of other people in the company. We do many things
Right.
also outside of just delivering projects
Yeah.
for these initiatives. Daniela with women localization, me with Elia. I mean, it's not always easy not to have any call in your day off, for instance.
Oh,
Not
I can definitely relate to that. But the difference is, and, I think this is good feedback for anybody, which is, or good advice for anybody, and I freely try to dispense it, is that ideally, if you can, ideally, and I know that's not an ideal world, but you want your teams operating at 90% capacity because then when shit hits the fan and it gets busy, then there's that bandwidth there. And if everyone's always operating at 100% capacity, or more likely 110% capacity, like a lot of us are, then when things get really busy, then we start getting into that burnout mode. So if you're working 4 days a week, like worst case scenario is, oh man, it's crunch time. We got to work 5 days this week. And that sounds a lot better than, oh man, I've got to work over the weekend.
I think the size of our team, I'm talking about project management, has always been a little bit bigger than we needed. And this is the same now. I mean, they're not working 100% of their capacity. And again, with technology, we are very scalable on many different projects. Sometimes we just don't, touch the files or whatever. So this makes us scalable. It's always been so in our company, different tools. So I think that would be the buffer that we need, but we do have a buffer. I mean, I know many other companies with same size and less people. So
Right.
I always thought I wouldn't want them to go into burnout. So we're always being a little bit more than we needed. And this is how it is now. I mean,
And Boris here is asking about, like, when you initially had these brainstorming sessions for, you came up with this idea, you watched the webinar, you said, I want to do this, how are we going to do it? Did you ever think about doing, instead of a 4 day work week, you would say just reduce hours and distribute those 32 hours over 5 days? So reduce the number of hours in the day? Or what conversation did you have about that? Because I'm sure that must have come up. Like, instead of having a 4 day work week, can't we just reduce the number of work hours in a day? What would have been the pros and cons of that?
so this is something I hadn't thought of
Okay,
because I'm more of an, I don't tend to think too much about things.
fair.
So what I did is I asked my people, okay, if you want to make it happen, make it happen. Do your own, brainstorming in your team and
Hmm.
find your own ways. I really didn't do anything on this, on the processes. But afterwards, I saw a webinar, well, a training on LinkedIn Learning about this, and I thought maybe I should have prepared a little bit more. So that was an option that I learned about in that course, but it's not something that the team brought up. I'm really open to it. I mean, again, the objective here is to make them happy. If someone asks me, I would rather do 6 hours on 5 days, that would make 30, and they would owe me 2 hours. But the idea is that they could do it. I think it has different challenges in terms of organizing the team
Sure.
with project managers, probably mostly. But yeah, I mean, I'm open. Again, the idea is for them to be happier and adapt to their own schedule. We are all pretty young, so we don't have, not all of us as families and kids,
Sure,
but of
sure.
course, these needs arises, we will adapt, I guess.
Well, and to me, that's really kind of a key theme that's been going through here, which I'll highlight, is that this isn't like a top down, like we're going to do this because I read a blog about it and it sounds like a good idea. Like you came to your team with a goal. Like how can we implement something that's going to allow you guys more free time so that when you're focused, when you're here at work, you're able to be more focused and productive. And you just kind of open the door and let them figure it out. So
Yeah, absolutely.
and this
I
is what they
remember it
figured
was
out.
really a quick Skype chat. I mean, it was 15 minutes chat and a call, and I told them, I remember the comments I got as well. I mean, everybody would be jealous. Someone was more stressed, and I gave them a couple of days to really think about it, and then they started, to
Come around.
brainstorm with themselves and create great ideas, really. And I took more care of the bureaucracy and everything from a labor law perspective. Other than that,
That was your role in it.
yeah,
Makes sense.
and it was not easy. I
Uh,
have to say, it was not easy.
I can imagine. I can imagine. So moving forward, you're still in the. You started off saying, okay, we need a 6 month pilot, or probation, or whatever you want to call it, to start. Which honestly, that's risky because if you give everyone a 4 day work week and then 6 months later you say this isn't working and you tell them they have to work 5 days again, there you have a potential mutiny on your hands. So kudos to you for taking that risk.
Well, it's again, I didn't think enough about it, I guess. So it was more spontaneous. But in that
But it's
particular
working.
course,
It's working. So
yeah.
so that's good. So you're still kind of in the piloting phase through the end of this year. How do you anticipate or do you anticipate tweaking anything in the future? Are there any adjustments you might make or any lessons learned that you're going to adjust for?
Not as of now. I mean, unless someone asked me for something slightly different, I wouldn't change anything. My idea was to make it permanent after the pilot.
Okay.
I'm not sure this is a good idea. I
Hmm.
think it's a matter of trust and ongoing commitment. So what I will probably do is having like an yearly renewal for our internal agreement. It keeps a bit of engagement that we really need
Yeah.
on a constant base. So that's the only change to my initial idea, and then of course we will adapt to any specific request.
Nice. Just keep checking in with people and seeing if they have any ideas themselves. Uh,
Yeah.
Chat over there. You guys have been sending some really good questions. If you have any other questions, I'm going to give you one last chance to get them in before we start wrapping this up here. Because my last question for you would be if you could wrap it all up and give us a takeaway. Because I know people are going to listen to this or watch this and think, how can I start doing this or should I start doing this at my company? What advice would you, Diego, have for others that are interested in recreating, I should say, the model that you have here for the 4 day work week?
So it's two different questions. Should I start, and how could I start?
Okay.
Should I start? Yes, you should give it a try. It's just a commitment you do with. I mean, if you're clear in communicating this to your team and you want to try it, there's no reason why you cannot go back. I mean, if you're very clear from the start, right? So I would go to your team and tell them, do we want to try this? If it works, it works. If it doesn't, we go back to the. I mean, it's worth trying, no? I guess. So I would really try. And the other thing, and I really want to be clear on this, again, I didn't do any reasoning on the processes. And I guess if you go to your team and you ask them to make it happen, and if it's for their own benefit, because it's a very good benefit, I guess, they would work harder. If you go to your team and ask them to be more efficient because you want to have a new car, it's not going to work the same way, I guess. So if it's for them, they will see the advantage of it. They will, create a picture in their mind about what they can do in the free day that they got. I guess this can work. So engage your team, not only the management team if you have one, but everybody in the company. Yeah, bottom up.
And I love that. It's truly empowering your team, because not only are you empowering your team, you're empowering your team to empower your team, right? You're saying like, hey team, I'd like to empower you, but I want to empower you to tell me how you need to be empowered. I don't know if that made any sense, but you're nodding your head, so it sounds like it did.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so that maybe I didn't say it clearly, but that would be my suggestion.
Awesome. Diego, anything I forgot to ask you here today before we start wrapping up here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there are many resources out there that I neglected to check. So another advice would be go and check. There's been a pilot program survey that the data are just out. It's been done in the UK, many different companies in different industries. I wish I had that before when I started, because there are some things that I could have done differently. So you have more resources, and one other resource you have is myself. So any question, I'll still be here. I'm always on LinkedIn in any case.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
reach out to me.
So with that, guys, I would encourage you to, if you're not already following Diego, you should be. Definitely hit him up on LinkedIn. Make sure that you're following Diego. And one thing I know about Diego, he's always willing to chat, particularly if he has an opportunity to help his colleagues in this industry. He's a big source of support for a lot of folks, a lot of companies, as many of you know. Diego, thank you so much for joining us today and bringing us this subject. I look forward to observing your future success, and I'm speaking that in faith, your future success as you continue this 4-day work week. And with that, I'll start wrapping it up today. Diego, thank you so much. Ladies, gentlemen.
Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome. Ladies, gentlemen, chat, we are out of time for today. If you enjoyed this episode of Nimdzi Live, then join us next time in one of our many events that I plugged at the beginning. I won't go through them all again, but we've got events for LSPs. We've got events for investors in language services. We've got events for buyer side folks. Find one that has a topic or a guest that you like, and make sure that you're signing up for that or watching the recording over on LinkedIn. If you, as I mentioned, if you haven't already done so, make sure that you're following Diego Cresceri on LinkedIn, but also go check out CreativeWords. That's creative-words.com. You can find their website. They've got a great blog, and you can find out more about what they do and what they're all about over there. So make sure that you're following them.
Thank you very much.
I got to plug my guests. If you enjoyed this Nimdzi Live experience, then you're following us on LinkedIn. We'll see you next time. And once again, I appreciate my guest, Diego. I appreciate all my colleagues here at Nimdzi Insights doing the hard work so I can have these fun conversations. I appreciate everybody in our industry who fills out Nimdzi surveys and schedules briefings with our analysts so we can include you in our published research. And finally, I appreciate you, the audience, who are joining us live today. I appreciate all of the dialogues, questions, and criticisms in chat, and hope to see them coming. And I will look forward to seeing you next time. Cheers.